Developing right now on Morning News Now, ready to strike. President Trump sending a message of support to protesters in Iran as violent anti-government demonstrations grow deadlier by the day.
Keep protesting, take over your institutions if possible, and save the name of the killers and the abusers. His help is on its way.
Here in the States, former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton facing possible contempt charges after defying congressional subpoenas in the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. We're going to take you to Washington. Unrest and uncertainty across Minneapolis. Overnight, protesters clashing with police again after another day of demonstrations. Comes 1 week after an ICE agent shot and killed a woman during an immigration raid. Now we're learning at least 3 federal prosecutors have stepped down over concerns about the investigation. We're going to bring you the latest. Plus, it's a controversial case that could have wide-reaching implications. Now the Supreme Court leaning toward backing state laws that ban transgender students from playing girls' and women's sports. More on the arguments and what happens next. And lasting change. The new research suggesting the secrets to a longer life may not be so secret after all. Could it have something to do with working out?
Yeah, maybe the basics, the
getting
staples.
Sleep. Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Emily Ketta in for Savannah.
Good to have you with us this morning. We are going to begin with President Trump ramping up the pressure on Tehran. A warning, some of the video we're about to show you is disturbing. Now, human rights groups say a rising number of Iranian citizens are being killed in the regime's violent crackdown on mass anti-government demonstrations. Video from Tehran appears to show security force members firing on protesters with automatic weapons. U.S.-based human rights activists say so far at least 2,500 people have been killed. We should note Iran's government has not released its own numbers, and there is limited information coming out of the country amid that ongoing internet and communications blackout.
In a post on Truth Social yesterday, President Trump urged Iranians to keep protesting, adding that help is on its way. The president appeared unfazed when asked about the regime's threats to retaliate against any U.S. military intervention.
Yeah, Iran said that the last time I blew them up with the nuclear capability, which they don't have any longer. So Iran said that the last time. They better behave.
For more, let's bring in NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba. Monica, good morning to you. Is it clear what the president means when he says help is on the way? Is he talking about taking military action against Iran?
We don't know, Emily and Joe, and that is the big question. And as of last night, the president indicated he hadn't made a final decision, but that he could be making one soon. And we know that top national security officials were huddled at the White House for a big meeting to discuss Iran yesterday that was chaired by the vice president. And we believe that the president would later then have been briefed. And again, it's unclear whether he's made a final decision, but he is weighing a range of options from potential military strikes on Iran to options that would not include U.S. military involvement, things that could be like cyber attacks or just continued support of the protesters in some way that we haven't seen before. So it's unclear, but we know that the president has had some really sharp words for Iran in terms of what he believes they will face if they continue, he says, to execute protesters.
So, Monica, I mean, just what is President Trump saying about what his end goal in Iran would be?
Well, to put it plainly, he said his goal is to, quote, win. Again, a little bit unclear exactly how he defines that, how he would measure that success. But the president has had, again, these very tough words for Iran, for the regime there, and has been threatening for more than a week now, saying that the U.S. is locked and loaded and ready to go. But there are larger questions, certainly, about whether that means he is looking for regime change, new leadership there, what that looks like, what could happen after some of this potential action. That's still a real unknown.
So switching gears a little bit, President Trump gave a speech to members of the Detroit Economic Club yesterday. There's some new numbers that we're watching. The same day, the Labor Department reported that inflation rose to 2.7% over the last year. And a new poll from NBC's Detroit affiliate and the Detroit News also shows close to 2/3 of Michigan voters say their household costs have gone up. So was any of this news reflected in President Trump's remarks yesterday?
Well, the president really has spoken about the economy in overly positive tones for months now, saying that essentially his policies are going to have a big impact on how people are feeling, despite the fact that polls say that people still have a lot of concerns about issues like affordability and the economy. But the president yesterday did talk about this and did say that he believes that some of the best months are ahead, again, thanks to what his administration is doing. Here's how he put it.
Under our administration, growth is exploding, productivity is soaring, investment is booming, incomes are rising, inflation is defeated, America is respected again like never before. The results are in, and the Trump economic boom is officially begun.
So a rosy overview there from the president, but economic indicators, again, have shown that prices have gone up on some key items and continue to. And again, it's just reflected in what people say they experience every day, even though the White House says they're going to unveil more economic proposals in the coming weeks.
Monica, before we let you go, we know officials from Denmark and Greenland are actually heading to the White House today, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio has been tasked with crafting the proposal to try and purchase the Danish territory, though to the best of our knowledge, it's not for sale. But what are we learning about how much that could cost? How do they even begin to put a price tag on it?
And officials from both Greenland and from Denmark have said very plainly, Joe, that Greenland is not for sale. But there does appear to be an opening to a conversation or perhaps a negotiation about what could happen next. Now, remember, it was the president who said that he was basically wanting to make a deal, quote, the easy way. And if he doesn't get that, he says he'll do it the, quote, hard way. Unclear what that means. But when there were questions about whether that would mean taking Greenland by force militarily, it seems the White House has stepped back from that approach ever so slightly and instead is trying to see if there's a way for the U.S. to acquire Greenland by buying it. And according to some scholars and former U.S. officials, their estimate is that it could cost as much as $700 billion to do that. Again, that's not a final estimate. That is just sort of based on what and how much it could be. Unclear, again, whether that's even a conversation that these officials are willing to have, though they will be at the White House for some key meetings today to see where this goes.
All right, Monica, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Former President Bill Clinton and his wife, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, are facing possible contempt of Congress charges from House Republicans for defying congressional subpoenas. But now some Democrats are saying that Clinton should testify before a congressional committee that's investigating Jeffrey Epstein. NBC News Washington correspondent Alice Barr joins us with more on this. Alice, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. The Clintons argue they're being unfairly singled out and have nothing material to add to the investigation, while leading Republicans say they're not accusing the former president of wrongdoing, but believe he may have more information to share. Contempt of Congress charges now looming for former President Bill Clinton, with the House Oversight Committee saying they'll take that rare step after the former president failed to appear for a deposition in the investigation into late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
He did not show up today.
Former President Clinton, who appears in a series of photos and records related to Epstein, has long denied wrongdoing or knowledge of Epstein's crimes.
No one's accusing Bill Clinton of any wrongdoing. We just have questions, and that's why the Democrats voted along with Republicans to subpoena Bill Clinton.
Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton is scheduled to appear today, but in a letter to the House Oversight Chair, both Clintons declined, saying they had nothing to add, calling the subpoenas legally invalid, and writing, quote, every person has to decide when they have seen or had enough and are ready to fight for this country, its principles, and its people, no matter the consequences. For us, now is that time. Some Democrats arguing the Clintons should be allowed to answer in writing, as others have, and pressing the Justice Department to finish releasing the full Epstein files.
And then we'll be able to determine all that we need to know.
Though Democrat Ro Khanna, who helped lead the charge to force the files release, said former President Clinton should appear.
Everyone involved should be providing an explanation, and I have conducted this in a way that doesn't single out Republicans or Democrats.
Conflicting views in a high-profile push for answers. A Clinton spokesperson previously called on the Justice Department to make public anything tied to the former president in the Epstein files, accusing the DOJ of selective releases to imply wrongdoing where there is none. The Justice Department says it's still combing through the files for redactions close to a month after a deadline to release them all. Joe?
All right, Alice, thank you so much.
And outrage continues to grow in Minneapolis this morning, where it's now 1 week to the day since Renee Good was shot and killed by an ICE officer there. Several federal prosecutors have now resigned over concerns with the direction of the Justice Department's investigation into her death, according to a source familiar with the resignations. Against that backdrop, clashes continue to escalate between federal immigration officers and residents critical of their actions in the Twin Cities. NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster is there with the latest. Shaq, good morning.
Hi there. Well, exactly 1 week since the shooting of Renee Nicole Good, you see this memorial behind me just continues to grow. We see people still bringing flowers, doing what they can to pay their respects. But so too do the protests around Minneapolis and St. Paul, and the clashes between protesters and members of federal law enforcement as they continue their federal immigration operations. We saw overnight, for example, protesters going around downtown Minneapolis hotels where they believed ICE agents were trying to sleep, making known that they don't want them here and don't want this increased enforcement. And we're also seeing those clashes across many neighborhoods, residential neighborhoods like the one I'm in now. We saw a clash just about a block and a half from where I'm standing right now. And all of this is coming as there are growing concerns and questions about the investigation into the shooting that led to her death, including mass resignations in the U.S. Attorney's Office here in Minnesota. Multiple prosecutors resigning after sources say they were receiving pressure from DOJ officials to not just investigate the shooter and the ICE officer, but also to investigate Good and her widow's possible connections to activist groups. That is something that many protesters brought up to us yesterday as a sign of impartial investigation, or lack of impartial investigation, and concern that this investigation will not lead to a result they can trust. And meanwhile, the Trump administration is announcing new moves against the Somali community, ending temporary protected status for members of that community. While I spoke to a state senator who said it's only going to impact a couple of hundred people in the Minneapolis area. She told me it's another move that will lead to families being ripped apart. She's told me she feels like her community at this point is being targeted. Back to you.
Shaq, on the ground for us. Thanks so much.
The Supreme Court seems likely to uphold state laws that ban transgender women and girls from playing on school sports teams. That's the assessment from many court observers after hours of testimony yesterday.
Lawyers for two transgender students from Idaho and West Virginia argued that the state laws don't take into account individual circumstances. For example, someone who takes puberty blockers may no longer be bigger, faster, or stronger than a typical female. But the states claim there are still athletic advantages regardless of hormonal treatments, so the ban are necessary to keep competition fair.
For more on this, we're joined by NBC News senior Supreme Court reporter Lawrence Hurley. Lawrence, good to have you with us. So at least 5 of the 6 conservative justices seem to lean toward the idea that these state laws don't violate the Constitution or Title IX of the Civil Rights Act. Just what were some of the key points, the key comments we heard from the justices yesterday?
Yeah, so sure. I mean, as you said, like there's 2 different discrete issues. So on Title IX, which is the federal law that bars discrimination in education, a lot of the focus went on this thing called the Javits Amendment, which is this provision that was added to the law that specifically allows for sex classifications in sports. So it's sort of saying that there's a sort of almost like a carve out for the sports that allows for women and girls to be on separate teams to men and boys. And that's based on biology, so they were saying in court yesterday. So if you look at that, it seems even maybe some of the liberal justices could be on board with the idea that Title IX does allow for some sort of restrictions to be put on who can be on the girls' and women's teams. And on the Equal Protection Clause, which is a much more complicated thing, it just seemed like they weren't open to the idea that individuals could bring these kind of very discrete claims based on their specific situation against these laws. So it seems like that those claims won't be able to go forward either. So that would mean that the laws are upheld.
So, Lawrence, just looking at the timeline here, the court's ruling on this is expected to come out by the end of June. Advocates say it could have a far-reaching impact on daily life for all transgender people. Can you walk us through the argument there?
Yeah, I mean, it's potentially does have that implication, although based on the arguments yesterday, it seems like the justices kind of want this case to just be about sports. And that's why, you know, if they don't get into those issues to do with the equal protection clause of the 14th Amendment, they don't have to necessarily decide whether transgender people should be a protected class, which based on the court's conservative majority seems unlikely they would go that far anyway. So it may be that this decision is restricted to sports. That's still, you know, bad news for obviously for transgender advocates, but it might not have the huge implications that it might have had if they'd gone in a different direction.
Lawrence, you mentioned this yesterday. A few years ago, the court sided with the trans community in a major discrimination case. I mean, Justice Gorsuch wrote the majority opinion in that case. But since then, the conservative majority court has really dealt some major blows to trans people. Last year, it allowed Tennessee to ban gender-affirming care for minors, let the Trump administration ban trans people from the military. So based on just what we heard yesterday, is there just an emerging line of thinking on transgender rights among the majority that could impact yesterday's cases and maybe be a signal of things we see down the road?
One thing that seems clear is that they seem to want to deal with these cases on a case-by-case basis, right, rather than making any sweeping rulings of one way or the other. The discrimination case you mentioned with Justice Gorsuch writing, you know, was limited to Title VII of the employment discrimination law. The case they're going to decide on sports might be restricted to sports. Justice Gorsuch is kind of really interesting because yesterday he came out and said he thinks Title IX is different as it applies to sports, at least because of the Javits Amendment that I mentioned. And so he seems like he's probably not a vote for the plaintiffs, at least on the Title IX claim. So, you know, they're looking at these cases individually, but of course the trend line at the moment is very much against transgender rights.
And we've been watching some of the images of dueling rallies outside the Supreme Court, including during yesterday's arguments with both critics and supporters. And while this is a divisive case, public opinion doesn't factor into the court's decision, right, Lawrence?
Yeah, I mean, every year, you know, when I'm covering cases at the court, there's certain cases where you see these kind of images of a lot of protesters outside the court and dueling rallies and people arguing with each other and so on. I think that, you know, that we've had this on abortion, we've had it on guns and other issues like that. And I think that the court is all kind of cordoned off, right? The protesters can't get into the court. And the security has actually been heightened in recent years. So I think the justices are very much cut off from all of that, and it'd be unusual if it were to play into their decision-making.
All right, Lawrence Hurley, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
And actor Timothy Busfield has turned himself into authorities in New Mexico days after an arrest warrant was issued on accusations of child sexual abuse. The sitcom star is now charged with 3 counts involving the alleged abuse of 2 children on the set of a TV series. Busfield adamantly denies the claims. He is scheduled to make his first appearance in front of a judge later today. NBC News entertainment correspondent Chloe Melas has the story.
Hollywood star Timothy Busfield ending a days-long search by law enforcement by turning himself in to New Mexico police. The actor now charged with sexual contact of a minor and child abuse. Busfield speaking to TMZ as he surrendered to authorities.
I'm going to confront these lies. They're horrible. They're all lies. And I did not do anything to those little boys. And I'm going to fight it.
The actor was a staple of primetime television for decades.
What are you working on?
Best known for his roles in The West Wing and 30-something, and movies like Field of Dreams.
When did these ball players get here?
According to court documents obtained by NBC News, the alleged abuse happened on the set of the Fox series The Cleaning Lady, in which Busfield directed and acted. Brothers featured in the show told their therapist when they were 11 years old about inappropriate contact from Busfield on set, who they referred to as Uncle Tim, and that it began when they were 7 years old, according to the affidavit. One of the boys alleged Busfield touched both his genitalia and bottom. The affidavit alleges that the behavior went on for almost 2 years. When asked by investigators if he ever had any physical contact with the boys and if he ever picked them up and tickled them, Busfield said it was, quote, highly likely that he would have, later saying, quote, I don't remember overtly tickling the boys ever, but it wouldn't be too uncommon for me.
BuzzField's lawyer saying his client did not do anything wrong and his client was on the run, telling NBC News, quote, he was across the country and had to travel by car to New Mexico, adding he wants to turn himself in because he wants to clear his name and reputation. BuzzField's wife, actress Melissa Gilbert, known for her role in Little House on the Prairie, deactivated her social media after the accusations came to light, telling NBC News she stands with and supports her husband.
And thanks to Chloe Melas for that report.
All right, today looks like another break from winter's icy grip with above average temperatures expected in some parts of the country. So let's get a check on your morning News Now weather.
Meteorologist Angie Lastman is tracking everything for us. Hey, Angie.
Hi there, guys. Emphasis on some parts of the country getting a winter break because, yes, along the East Coast, that's where we're still seeing some of those temperatures running way above normal. We've got 50s from New York to Washington, D.C. and down through Roanoke today, 10 degrees above where we should be. But that chilly air is starting to settle in for folks across parts of the Midwest and the Great Lakes with just 20 degrees in Minneapolis this afternoon. Looking ahead to tomorrow, much of the eastern half of the country starts to get back to reality and then really bottoming out with some of those temperatures in some locations. So we switch from the above normal to the below normal very quick in a 24-hour period. It's Chicago at 26 degrees for your high tomorrow, into the low 40s for New York City. But look at Asheville, just 26 degrees. We've got 40s for Montgomery. New Orleans checks in at 50 degrees. So chillier conditions settling in by tomorrow for a lot of folks, and then they kind of stick with us for the weekend, and we even see them dip a little lower. So we go from those mid-30s on Friday in Detroit to those 20s by the end of the weekend. Even worse in Minneapolis, just a high of 10 degrees by the time Saturday rolls around. It's the 40s and 50s in Raleigh for the end of the work week and into the weekend, but then the 30s are returning. So don't get too used to having those layers in the closet and not taking them out the door with you. Meanwhile, the West is staying warm. We've got 70s across the board in Phoenix. That looks pretty nice to me right now. We've got 50s in Denver. Not great for folks that are looking for some snow. For skiing, guys, we've still got those kind of mild conditions that are going to stay with us through the end of the work week and into the weekend for that region. And we've also got some winter alerts. 10 million people across parts of the Appalachians and the Great Lakes dealing with those winter alerts as we gear up for a bit of rain and a bit of snow from this quick moving system. Here's what it looks like as we get through today. It's a mix of rain and snow for really the eastern third of the country, and those lake effect snow bands, they really ramp up for Indiana and Michigan. By the time we get into tomorrow, some snow showers lingering across the Northeast, but we've got this next system that's going to arrive across the upper Midwest. That's going to leave it being a little difficult for travel as we get through your Thursday.
All right.
A mixed bag.
The winter's coming. It's not over.
Yes, do not put the layers away just yet.
A bit of weather whiplash, as
exactly.
we call it. Okay, Angie, thanks so much. Now to some sad news. Civil rights icon Claudette Colvin has died. She was 86 years old. Colvin is credited with sparking the modern civil rights movement after she was arrested in 1955 for refusing to give up her seat on a segregated bus in Montgomery, Alabama, to white passengers. Colvin was only 15 at the time. Her act of resistance took place 9 months before Rosa Parks gained international fame for taking the same stand.
Parks' arrest kicked off the years-long Montgomery bus boycott. It's a moment that propelled Martin Luther King Jr. onto the national stage. Colvin's death comes just over 1 month after Montgomery commemorated the 70th anniversary of that bus boycott. The Claudette Colvin Legacy Foundation says she died of natural causes in Texas.
And much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, a warning about tech-savvy thieves targeting property owners, how authorities say they're using AI to steal homes.
Up first after the break, World Cup woes, why American soccer fans hoping to score a seat for the tournament this summer say they're being priced out of even the cheapest tickets. We'll be right back. We're back from news from overseas, and while the northern hemisphere is in the depths of winter, wildfires are raging across the southern hemisphere, brought on by the heat of summer. It's not just one sliver of the globe. Argentina, South Africa, and Australia are all dealing with extreme heat, dry conditions, and lots of wind, and that's all fueling those massive fires. NBC News International correspondent Raf Sanchez reports on how those three countries are trying to get a handle on the flames.
A dramatic split screen. Fires ripping across 3 different continents south of the equator. Australia, Argentina, and South Africa, all fighting some of the worst blazes they've seen in years. In Australia,
it's gut-wrenching.
Nothing's left.
These bushfires sparked in part by heat waves over the last month and lightning storms striking in just the last few days. Entire properties charred, and hundreds of homes like this one reduced to rubble, with authorities there reporting at least one person dead.
What we saw is just people helping out.
People stepping up in South America, too, where a blaze rages through the Argentine Patagonia, forcing thousands of tourists to evacuate from this national park, all worsened by high winds and an intense drought. This man saying the fire was hell, and if his neighbor hadn't woken him up from a nap, he wouldn't be here to tell the tale. The fire is also causing a political firestorm, with unfounded accusations of 2 Israelis starting the blaze. Jewish leaders crying foul, with the president of the country, Javier Milei, saying the rumors are, quote, the dark side of Argentina. And South Africa also going through dark times. Authorities there calling on emergency management officials to declare the Western Cape a disaster zone. The area is a popular tourist destination, but the fires have thrown a wrench into more than travel. Love Island UK having to evacuate its cast and crew just ahead of a new season premiere. The show posting that everyone is safe, and there are reports that filming will resume soon. Just a small glimmer of hope as summer in the southern hemisphere burns on. Raf Sanchez, NBC News.
In Thailand, dozens of people are dead after a construction crane collapsed onto a moving train.
NBC News International correspondent Claudio Lavanga joins us now from Rome to take us around the world in 60 seconds. Good morning, Claudio.
Good morning, guys. That's right. Well, authorities in Thailand now say that at least 29 people have died and 67 others at least were injured after that construction crane fell on a moving train, causing it to derail. Now, the crane was being used to build a section of a high-speed rail project and fell as the train was traveling from Bangkok to the northeast of the country. Thailand's transport minister said 195 people were on board that train and said that he ordered an investigation. Let's go now to Ukraine, where officials say Russia has launched another major drone and missile attack that targeted the country's power grid. Hundreds of apartment blocks across Ukraine, including in the capital Kyiv, have been without heating and power in freezing temperatures since after Russian strikes on Monday caused what the capital's mayor called the biggest electrical outage the city has faced so far. Ukraine's President Zelensky said the new overnight attack involved almost 300 drones, 18 ballistic missiles and 7 cruise missiles. And let's end this tour of the world with a tour of the world announced by BTS, one of the biggest K-pop bands on the planet. Now, the tour marks the band's first headline performances since 2022 and comes after all 7 members completed their mandatory military service in South Korea. The band will play all over the world, including, of course, in the US, where their first gig will be in New Jersey in August, and will be playing across the rest of the country until September. Now, guys, I have to admit that I don't know BTS that well, so I had to Google them, and I see that one of the most famous songs is Blood, Sweat and Tears, which I fear, considering how famous they are, it is what their fans will have to go through to secure a ticket. Emily, Joe?
It's what it'll say on Ticketmaster, like cost, blood, sweat, tears.
Yeah. I know people are, the tickets go on sale next week. I know people already starting to book their hotels preemptively, preparing for the rush. It's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, no kidding. All right. Thanks, Claudio.
All right, so while BTS fans are waiting for those tickets to go on sale, soccer fans are scrambling to score a seat for this summer's World Cup in North America. Yesterday marked the last chance for fans to enter the lottery to get the cheapest tickets available for the tournament. But some of the so-called bargain prices are still hundreds or even thousands of dollars. It has many fans concerned that they'll be priced out of attending games. NBC's Jesse Kirsch takes a look.
This summer promises to be historic. The USA at the heart of it all. But there's also a looming question. If you build it, will they come?
£4,000 for a game. How many stadiums are just going to be empty at the World Cup?
Many soccer fans across the internet shocked and outraged by the tournament's ticket prices. Facing backlash, FIFA has added a limited number of $60 tickets for each match. But some opening round seats cost as much as $700.
Those primary market prices are already by far the most expensive in World Cup history.
And on resale markets, they're soaring even higher. Steep prices may not shock Americans, but in other countries, soccer is seen as a key to communities' cultural fabric.
What goes through your mind when you look at those prices?
Just crazy. We have to remortgage, get loans. Just nobody has that sort of spare money.
Jo McNichol is a diehard England fan. She says she's booked plane tickets and an RV for this summer, but she cannot find World Cup tickets at a price she's willing to pay.
It's just been unfair.
Nichol is also a wheelchair user. She says at the World Cup final in Qatar, a companion ticket was included in her ticket price to help her get around, but not this year. In response to NBC News' questions, FIFA did not comment on the record about accessibility. On general ticketing concerns, FIFA told us in part that the World Cup's pricing model, quote, reflects the existing market practice for major entertainment and sporting events in the host countries. Adding, we are focused on ensuring fair access to our game for existing but also prospective fans. Even if fans are willing to shell out big money, some are concerned about getting into the U.S. as the Trump administration cracks down on visa applications from some tournament countries, including Iran, Senegal, and Haiti. Following previous visa concerns, the U.S. government and FIFA unveiled a priority program for World Cup ticket holders known as FIFA Pass. Soccer's governing body promising the greatest and most inclusive FIFA World Cup in history.
Have you ever seen a ticket situation like this year?
No. Brian Hexel runs a major U.S. soccer supporters group trying to build fandom in this country.
It's scary. My biggest fear is that FIFA has actually stopped the growing of the sport in the U.S.
But even if there are fewer face-painted, banner-waving, drum-beating diehards in the stands, the seats may still be full.
Americans love things that are big and spectacular. And that's what FIFA is trying to make this World Cup.
Still, it's unclear how many of the sport's biggest fans will witness that in person. Jesse Kirsch, NBC News.
Coming up, change of plans, the new numbers that show a shift in Americans' insurance coverage just as those federal health care subsidies expire.
Plus, at risk, why researchers say many dementia patients could be taking meds that cause more harm than good. Dr. Sayal is in with our weekly checkup next on Morning News Now. All right, we're back now with our weekly medical checkup. This week, we're looking into how small habit changes can help you live longer.
Plus, why you may want to pay attention to your blood sugar even if you don't have diabetes.
Here to break down these health headlines is NBC News medical reporter Dr. Akshay Sayal. Good to be with you. Thank you for being here. Let's start with a new study that found that many older adults with dementia are being prescribed risky medications. So what types of medications are we talking about and what kind of risks?
Yeah, good morning. So, this is actually a study out of my hospital system, UCLA Health. And, this is a big problem with older Americans. We call this word polypharmacy, right? Older Americans, especially over 65, are taking a lot of medications, right? And some of these medications can have deleterious effects on the brain. And when we talk about what class of medications, Emily, we're talking about antipsychotics, things like benzodiazepines, like Xanax or Klonopin. These drugs can actually interact with our neurotransmitters in our brain, and older Americans can be at risk of falls, confusion, hospitalizations. So really, really important topic. They found that 1 in 4 Medicare beneficiaries are still being prescribed these things. But for our viewers out there, we do have some helpful tips, some things that I tell my own patients. Talk to your older family members about what medications are on. There's nothing worse than people coming to your office and dumping a bottle of medications and being like, I don't know why I'm on any of these, right? We don't want that. And accompany them to the doctor. Go with grandma, go with grandpa. Make sure you know exactly why they're taking what and if they really need to be taking it, guys.
Be that advocate.
Be the advocate, exactly.
All right, this next study we're digging into found that when your blood sugar spikes after meals, it can actually raise your risk of Alzheimer's. So explain why that is and just what we can do to prevent those spikes.
Joe, there's been an old saying in medicine recently about, referring to Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes. It turns out there's a lot of medical sort of component to Alzheimer's disease, whether it's cholesterol or blood sugar. And, in this case, what they found was that these postprandial spikes, meaning you eat something and your blood sugar spikes way too high, is actually associated with a 69% higher risk of Alzheimer's disease. And, to those of us who've sort of been paying attention, it's one of those things that we always thought but didn't really have data for, and that's really what this shows us. But there is something we can do about it. You know, a lot of patients are asking me now about continuous glucose monitors, and it's something that I recommend even if you don't have diabetes. Just wear it for a month or so and see what foods can cause your sugars to spike. But guys, doctor's orders here. This is so important. Move after eating. You both in New York, you probably do this a lot. Even a 5-minute walk after eating really dramatically lowers that sugar spike. And don't skip your physical. Things like blood pressure, cholesterol, all of those things raise your risk of Alzheimer's. So make sure you're getting those things checked too.
Writing a reminder to both make that appointment. Okay, so finally I want to touch on 2 studies that found simple changes to your sleep and physical activity can actually prolong your life. I feel like we've heard this before. Anything really significant here?
You know, everyone's looking for a magic pill for longevity. The takeaway for this is there is nothing better you can do in the next several years that is going to beat exercise, that is going to beat regular sleep, and stress habits. We were talking right before we came on air about our friend Joe here, who's a morning show host, and every week I come on here and I tell him to sleep more. How have you been doing?
6 days a week, by the way. I'm a morning show host, so.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he gets one day off. Journalists are not known for their sleep.
No, we're not known for our sleep. I try to get to bed. I try to get 6 hours to 7, which, you know.
Yeah, it's not bad. Guys, the takeaway here is it doesn't have to be a big change. Every small step matters. The doctor's orders are make it fun. You know, if you are looking to exercise more, it doesn't necessarily have to be go walking on a treadmill. Play sports, get your friends involved, and start slow and steady.
Did I see sit less than 30 minutes a day?
You know,
we've already violated. Just sitting here.
You're a poster child for this segment.
We're going to do a lot more standing segments.
Yeah, exactly.
Dr. Sayal, thanks so much.
Anytime.
All right, staying with health. The open enrollment period for many people who get insurance through the Affordable Care Act is coming to an end tomorrow.
New state and federal numbers show more people are moving to cheaper plans or dropping their coverage altogether. Nationwide, signups are down more than 800,000 from last year. It comes after Congress did not extend enhanced tax credits for people under the ACA last week, which caused health insurance premiums to skyrocket for millions of Americans.
NBC News health and medical reporter Berkeley Lovelace Jr. joins us now with more on this. So, Berkeley, I know you reached out to several states about these sign-up numbers for 2026. So what did officials have to say about those numbers compared with last year?
Yeah, that's right. So we obtained data from 10 states that run their own Affordable Care Act exchanges. And we found that in 3 states, Idaho, Massachusetts, and Virginia, the number of people who have dropped coverage has doubled compared to last year. In Pennsylvania, the number of people who have dropped has tripled. And officials there tell us that that number is expected to grow. Then in states like Kentucky, California, and New York, new enrollment is down and people are moving to so-called bronze plans. And so bronze plans are the cheapest plans on the ACA. They have very low premiums, but very high deductibles. And so a deductible is what you have to pay out of pocket before coverage kicks in. And guys, the deductibles can be very high. The average is somewhere between $5,000 to $7,000 out of pocket.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. I know, Berkeley, you spoke with one expert who said if ACA premium subsidies don't get extended, it will provoke a, quote, national crisis. So walk us through some of the possible fallout if more people move to cheaper plans or don't sign up for coverage at all.
Yeah, so what experts say we're going to see here is we're going to see more people putting off or delaying care or even skipping medications. We're going to see more people wait to go to the hospital until they get seriously sick. And if they show up to the hospital and can't pay, that cost will fall onto the hospital, and it'll also fall onto taxpayers as well. And so most hospitals cannot turn people away if they can't pay. And so I spoke to a mom in California. She chose a bronze plan this year with a very high deductible. And she told me over the weekend her daughter hurt her wrist while playing, and she really struggled on whether or not to take her to the emergency room. And she ended up not going because she was really concerned about that high out-of-pocket cost. And so I think that's a great example here of what we're going to see as more people either get cheaper coverage or no coverage at all.
Yeah, and those are the choices people will have to make or measure whether to get health care versus paying rent or buying food and things like that. So, Berkeley, I mean, the key is what's Congress going to do here. Catch us up. Is there any momentum in Congress right now to reconsider extending these subsidies?
Yeah, so it really remains really unclear right now. So the House did pass a bill this month to extend the tax credits another 3 years. But the Senate is working on its own draft right now, so it's really unclear whether or not the two chambers are going to be able to come together and reach an agreement on extending those credits. And then meanwhile, President Donald Trump this week has suggested that he might veto any extension of the tax credit. So it's really unclear. As you know, President Donald Trump has talked about wanting to move to health savings accounts. So it's unclear whether there will be a bill on that as well. So right now it's still up in the air. Right now what's going to happen, guys.
All right. Berkeley, appreciate your reporting. Thank you.
All right, coming up, federal fallout. Small businesses in Minnesota forced to close as immigration protests grow.
They're a legend. They've been around for decades. Affects a lot of families for no reason. Good families.
We come back, we're going to take a closer look at the fallout in Minnesota. This is Morning News Now. Welcome back. Restaurants and small businesses in Minneapolis are feeling the heat from the federal immigration enforcement operation there. Dozens have either closed their doors or changed their hours in recent days. Morgan Wolf from our NBC Minneapolis affiliate, KARE 11, has that story.
I have been coming to Boca Chica for many years.
Along Seaver Chavez Boulevard in West St. Paul, immigration enforcement has done more than slow traffic.
There's nobody here, so that's sad.
It has forced businesses to hit pause.
I noticed there was no cars parked out here. I'm like, man, that's pretty lucky, because usually this place is packed at lunchtime.
Craig Randall grew up in the area. He drove an hour to stop for lunch at El Burrito Mercado.
They're a legend. They've been around for decades.
The restaurant closed, telling the community to stay safe, amigos.
It affects a lot of families for no reason. Good families.
Down the block, Boca Chica closed too.
Yeah, it is a bummer, considering I drove 30 miles to come here for lunch.
This restaurant has been serving the community since 1964, and people say that they are rarely closed.
Unfortunately, I come here today to get lunch, and they're closed.
And now not only are employees afraid to come to work, but customers are afraid to come to the restaurants. So it is absolutely brutal right now.
For decades, Jason DeRusha has covered the hospitality industry. He says the ICE activity is happening amid the slowest month of the year for restaurants.
With COVID, we all knew, like, oh, we got to come together. These guys are in trouble. I don't know if people realize quite how dire the circumstances right now for restaurants. The backbone of the restaurant industry in the Twin Cities and everywhere in Minnesota, it is the immigrants.
He says it's largely people here legally, but does include undocumented immigrants.
I've always believed in supporting the small business.
A concerned community as businesses are trying to navigate what to do next.
The people that work here, I get to know them. They're very nice. You know, I've got no problem with them, and I wish we all didn't.
And our thanks to Morgan Wolf for that report. More money news now. Microsoft says it will be more community conscious in its push to prop up new data centers.
NBC News business and economy reporter Emily Lorish has your Money Minute. Hey, good morning to you.
Hey guys, good morning. That's right. Microsoft says it will take a, quote, community-first approach as it expands AI data centers. The company is promising to pay its electricity costs so that local power bills don't rise, while also limiting water use and creating jobs. Data centers have become a growing point of political contention as Americans worry about energy prices, water use, and the environmental impact. And Slack's built-in assistant is getting a major AI upgrade. Parent company Salesforce has rolled out a new AI agent version of its Slack bot for Business Plus and Enterprise Plus users. Workers can now use the bot to find information, draft emails, schedule meetings, and even pull data from tools like Microsoft Teams and Google Drive without leaving Slack. Salesforce plans to add voice features and the ability to browse the web in the future. Finally, Apple is rolling out a new all-in-one subscription for creators. The tech giant announced a new bundle. It's called Creator Studio that's launching on January 28th for $12.99 a month. It includes apps like Final Cut Pro and Logic Pro as the company looks to boost recurring revenue in its fast-growing services business. On iPads, though, the bundle will be the only way that a new customer can purchase certain programs, signaling a deeper push into subscriptions as creative software moves increasingly mobile. The good news, guys, though, is that unlike some other subscription services, they do say that multiple family members could use the bundle, so up to 6 members of the family will be able to access.
It seems like a good idea since everyone's a creator now.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a subscription for a monthly payment for everything.
Yeah.
So
everything you can think of.
All right, thanks so much. Experts warn that property and deed theft are on the rise across the U.S. They say thieves are getting more precise, using artificial intelligence to forge documents and identifications to steal homes and vacant land. Dave Bowman from our West Palm Beach affiliate WPTV spoke to one woman whose family lost their property in Florida, and she said they've spent years plus thousands of dollars trying to get it back.
Just thinking about what my family goes through, I become emotional.
Ekaterini Alexopoulos is struggling. She tells me her relatives have been trying to get their Boca Raton property back since it was stolen 3 years ago.
Maybe because this is a new area of fraud going on.
Police say a man forged a family member's name and created a fake driver's license to obtain title to this land off Boca Raton Boulevard. Then police say the deed thief sold the land for $360,000. That led to a civil case between the rightful owner and the new owner.
I came to the point where I cannot deal with this anymore.
It's a big challenge to get that property back.
Mike Caruso was appointed Palm Beach County Clerk in August. He calls the theft of homes and lots an epidemic. I requested numbers from the Palm Beach County State Attorney's Office. It shows just 4 cases of deed theft were prosecuted in 2023. That jumped to 32 cases in 2024 and 184 last year. Caruso says it could spike to 800 cases this year, with those over 65 the targets of thieves.
They're using AI and different methods and softwares to find out who owns property, their age, whether they're over 65 or not, and whether they have a mortgage on the property or not.
And how difficult is it, once you're a victim, to get your property back?
It will cost you significant legal fees if even you are able to get it back.
In recent months, Caruso has run these public service ads.
I'm Mike Caruso, your clerk of court of Palm Beach County, here to tell you about my office's free property fraud alert service.
Caruso says his office signed up 9,700 property owners for fraud alerts in the last 6 weeks. Under that program, when someone checks a property deed at a clerk's office, the property owner is immediately notified by mail.
The key to this is early detection. If you can get notified early on, we can take care of that problem right then and stop it immediately.
I first told you about the growing problem of deed theft earlier this year. WPTV highlighted Rosalie McCurdy's stolen land in Port St. Lucie. After our story aired, police arrested a Michigan woman, and a judge later awarded her property back. But it cost her thousands in legal fees.
It's like I'm buying my lot back, you know, which was mine to begin with in the first place.
I talked to my other clerks all through the state, and this is the number one issue that is destroying people's lives.
Back in Boca Raton, Ekaterini Alexopoulos' efforts to get her family's land back has been tied up in court for 2 years.
We're at the point where we will have to buy to get our property back and go on with our lives.
Thanks to Dave Bowman for that report. Property owners can lower the risk of this happening to them by checking with the county clerk's office to see if it has a program called Property Fraud Alert that will notify someone if there is an inquiry about any deeds, mortgages, or other official records issued in their name.
All right, coming up on Morning News Now, Olympic dreams now within reach.
I think it would mean the most to my family and the little girl who thought that she needed to control everything. Yeah, it would mean the most to her.
When we come back, we'll introduce you to a biathlete hoping to win to make history for Team USA. Stay with us. And we end this hour with a spotlight on a Vermont native who's heading to the Olympic Games as an alternate. Chloe Levins is an elite skier and golfer, but biathlon is her ticket onto Team USA this winter. NBC Boston reporter Eli Rosenberg has her story as we continue to count down to Milan Cortina.
And go.
To be this cool under pressure, that's it. Your heart racing 1,000,000 miles a minute. With success only coming from the ability to lock in. You have to find an inner peace. One Chloe Levins channeled not in the snow, but on the golf course.
Since I was 2, I had skis on my feet. But since I was 2, I also had a golf club in my hands.
Levins, the product of a mom who was on the LPGA tour and a father who was a ski racer. Far different physical sports, yes, but the mental aspect, a natural crossover.
Target's huge.
For this Rutland, Vermont native.
It's the cerebral aspect, it's the training, it's the, muscle memory, the training of your mind and that stillness that I completely gravitated to from the very beginning.
And who can argue with the results? The 27-year-old won 2 state championships in golf in high school and was a 2-time captain, 2-time conference champ at Middlebury College, all while majoring in neuroscience, as one does. In addition to all of that, neuroscience and pre-med, that all wasn't enough?
Yeah. I had this dream of being a neurosurgeon from a really early age. And not that dream is dead, but it definitely has evolved.
Evolved because as good as Levens is in all of that, she's even better on the snow. Representing the United States at 4 world championships. Levens shooting, her aim, a difference maker. The challenge is mounting, though.
There were a lot of times in my journey where adversity kept me from competing and training. I had disordered eating habits. I had long COVID. I had mono. I had an ovarian cyst that I needed surgery for. Just understanding that I get to do this, and it's not something that I have to do, allows me to operate from a much more still place.
A new perspective, and the results sure have followed. After narrowly missing out on 2 Olympics, Levens in her best position yet.
I think it would mean the most to my family and the little girl who thought that she needed to control everything. Yeah, it would mean the most to her.
I'll talk about versatility. Our thanks to Eli for that report. You can watch coverage of the Milan-Cortina games right here on NBC and Peacock. The games start on February 6th. That does it for this hour of Morning News Now. The news continues right now. Good morning, I'm Emily Ketta in for Savannah. Joe will be back with us later in the hour. Right now on Morning News Now, show of force, chaos and contention flooding the streets of Minnesota exactly 1 week since that deadly ice-involved shooting sent shockwaves across the nation. Overnight, a flurry of flashbangs greeting protesters outside a federal building in St. Paul. While this now viral video sparks outrage online, a woman apparently pulled from her car by ICE agents screaming that she's disabled. Our Shaq Brewster is on the ground with the latest. Also this morning, an economic victory lap coming straight from President Trump nearly a year into his 2nd term. The commander-in-chief touting lower prices while touring a Ford auto plant in Michigan yesterday, even though many Main Street Americans say they're still feeling a pinch when it comes to their wallets.
Never before has an administration achieved such sweeping and dramatic turnarounds as has taken place just in this very short period of time.
More from Washington, including the potential for a Supreme Court decision today that could shake up Mr. Trump's global tariff crusade. Plus, a major milestone this morning in America's fight against cancer. What medical experts say is driving a welcome surge in survival stories and what the future of treatment could look like. We begin this hour with the escalating protests in Minnesota over the Trump administration's ICE operations there. It has been 1 week since 37-year-old Renee Good was shot and killed by an ICE officer in her vehicle in Minneapolis. Now, several federal prosecutors in the state are resigning over the DOJ's investigation into Good and her widow. Good's death has sparked outrage across the city and the nation. Confrontations between residents and federal immigration officers have been growing, with agents using a strong show of force against protesters. NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster is on the ground with the latest. Shaq, good morning.
Hi there. Well, in the week since Renee Nicole Good was killed, this memorial behind me just continues to grow. People still coming to lay flowers and pay their respects. But so too are the protests and clashes, including one yesterday that took place just about 2 blocks from where I'm standing now, all as there are new questions and concerns about the investigation into the shooting that took her life.
It provides status
2 up.
Overnight, federal agents using flashbangs and a sudden show of force, confronting a line of protesters outside a federal building in St. Paul, Minnesota. While in Minneapolis, mounting anger. Last night, a crowd gathering outside a hotel where protesters thought ICE agents were sleeping. All part of the fallout from the killing of Renee Nicole Good by an ICE agent a week ago today. The Trump administration has claimed Good was a threat to the agent. Yesterday, President Trump weighing in.
I would bet you that she, under normal circumstances, was a very solid, wonderful person, but her actions were pretty tough.
At least 3 prosecutors in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Minnesota have resigned over concerns with the direction of the shooting investigation. A source familiar with the resignations told NBC News. A federal law enforcement source says the resignations were triggered in part by pressure from DOJ leadership to investigate Good and her widow's connections to activist groups. The clashes in Minneapolis have expanded.
It seemed like a war out there.
16-year-old Sam Lumen says he saw federal officers detain 2 young people from this home as angry residents gathered in protest.
They were shooting pepper balls, throwing tear gas, tackling people, smashing windows.
This video also going viral, showing a woman being violently yanked from her car, telling officers she's disabled and trying to get to the doctor. The Department of Homeland Security not answering our questions about the incident, but saying they've arrested more than 2,400 people in the Minneapolis area since November. President Trump standing by ICE.
We're getting rid of a lot of people that are criminals that shouldn't be in our country.
While yesterday, influential podcaster Joe Rogan weighing in.
You don't want militarized people in the streets just roaming around, snatching people up. Are we really going to be the Gestapo? Where's your papers? Is that what we've come to?
Meanwhile, the Trump administration announcing yet another move against Somali immigrants, announcing yesterday they're ending temporary protected status for some immigrants, saying that anyone relying on that legal protection will need to leave the country by March 17th. I spoke to a state senator yesterday who told me that's only set to impact a couple of hundred people in the Minneapolis area, but saying she feels like her community is being targeted and that it will cause more families to be separated. Back to you.
Shaq, thanks so much. President Trump is touting his achievements on the economy despite growing skepticism among Americans over his record. The president made the comments during a visit to Detroit yesterday. He also doubled down on his attacks on Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. NBC News Chief White House correspondent Peter Alexander joins us with more on all of that. Hey, Peter.
Emily, good morning. The economy is certain to be a motivating force for voters during the midterm elections this fall, which helps explain President Trump's latest road trip. But many voters remain dissatisfied with the cost of living and with the president's management of the economy. And now more members of the president's own party, Republicans, are raising questions about the administration's pressure campaign focused on the Fed chair.
Nearly a full year into his second term, President Trump, after visiting a Ford auto plant in Michigan, declaring victory when it comes to the U.S. economy.
The results are in, and the Trump economic boom is officially begun.
But many Americans remain skeptical of the president's handling of the economy, and inflation, while down from its 2022 highs, remains roughly where it was when President Trump took office. The president also touting lower prices.
Grocery prices are starting to go rapidly down.
Eggs are down 35% over a year ago, and gas prices are at a 4-year low. But other staples have risen. Beef up 16%, coffee up 20%, and even candy 10% more expensive. In his Detroit speech, the president also ramping up his repeated attacks on Fed Chairman Jerome Powell, accusing him of keeping interest rates too high.
If I had the help of the Fed, it would be easier, but that jerk will be gone soon.
But bipartisan backlash is growing over the Justice Department's criminal investigation into Powell, focused on his June testimony before Congress about the years-long renovation of the central bank's Washington headquarters, where the price tag has soared from $1.9 billion to $2.5 billion, though not taxpayer money. Powell has accused the administration of using the investigation to pressure him, but the president has said he has nothing to do with it. Still, Democrats are condemning the move.
He's undermining the faith and credit of the United States of America.
Some Republicans also critical.
It looks like the Justice Department is being used as a weapon, and I don't want that to ever happen under any administration.
And the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, Jamie Dimon, is also warning in a call with reporters that the DOJ investigation of the Fed chair risks undermining its independence and could ultimately push inflation higher. President Trump responding late Tuesday, Emily, criticizing Dimon's take and taking another swing at Powell, saying, "I think it's fine what I'm doing." Emily.
All right, Peter, from the White House, thank you so much. The Supreme Court could rule on the legality of President Trump's global trade tariffs as early as today. It's a decision that's expected to have a major impact on both businesses and Wall Street. NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung is at the New York Stock Exchange for us this morning. Hey, Brian, so first off, walk us through what exactly the Supreme Court is ruling on when it comes to the president's trade tariffs.
Yeah, good to see you, Emily. Again, what we're on standby for here at the New York Stock Exchange is a massive decision that could be coming from the Supreme Court today on tariffs. Again, this is the concerning the country-specific tariffs that the president unveiled in that very splashy Rose Garden announcement in April of last year, where he essentially tried to upend the entire trade system internationally. Now, of course, you saw some of those eye-popping 20, 30, 40, 50% tariffs waged against other countries, making it a lot more expensive for those businesses to bring in those products. The president doing so under a 1977 law that the Supreme Court is now evaluating whether or not it gave the president the legal authority to do exactly that. So based off oral arguments that we saw just a few months ago, it does sound like the Supreme Court has some skepticism over whether or not the president did have the legal standing to put those tariffs up in the first place. When the high court does rule on this, that could have massive impacts for businesses, consumers, as well as investors down here at the New York Stock Exchange, Emily.
Yeah, so let's dig into that a little bit more. A lot of eyes on this. What kind of impact could a decision either way have on businesses, consumers, and stock markets?
Yeah, well, let's operate under the assumption that the Supreme Court strikes down those tariffs. If that does happen, that could mean lower prices for things like toys, sporting goods, as well as clothing that we import so much from abroad. But for those businesses that have already paid the tariffs, I think the big question is going to be, will the $133 billion in tariffs paid under these specific country-specific tariffs be refunded back to those companies? That is an open question. But again, we do need to get that ruling first. As far as where Wall Street is positioned, it does seem like, based off of investors that I've talked to, that they're pricing in the expectation that the Supreme Court will strike it down. But if there is a surprise and they uphold the president's authority to put those tariffs in place, we'll see whether or not that leads to a negative reaction on Wall Street. You recall, Wall Street did not like the announcement of those tariffs in April. Those were some of the worst days that we saw in 2025 as far as the stock market's concerned, Emily.
And Brian, while we have you, President Trump is saying inflation is down, but the latest report you broke on our show yesterday tells, or at least seems to tell, a different story, right?
Yeah, well, 2.7%. That's how much prices rose in December compared to the year prior. And that is a improvement from the 3% rate that we saw when the president first took office for this second term in January of last year. But I should point out that when we talk about affordability, that is the word that we keep hearing so often on Main Street. Food prices, grocery prices were still up 2.4% on a yearly basis in December. That was actually an acceleration in terms of the rate of inflation compared to the reading that we had received prior to that. That is despite the president's efforts to provide these tariff exemptions from a number of food items. That was done in November to try to address this affordability crisis, which does show that on the tariffs front, there is still a big challenge for the administration in terms of trying to get those grocery bills and the overall cost of living down for every average day Americans. Emily.
Okay, Brian Chung, watching it all for us. Thanks so much. Former President Bill Clinton and his wife, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, are the focus of a new dispute on Capitol Hill. The Clintons have said that they will not testify as part of the House Oversight Committee's investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. And now the chairman of that committee says he will move to hold Mr. Clinton in contempt of Congress. NBC News chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles has the latest on this. Hey, Ryan.
Hey, good morning. The Justice Department had a deadline of December 19th to release all their files related to Jeffrey Epstein, but they still say they have more than 2 million documents to release. That's happening as Republicans in Congress are pushing former President Bill Clinton to answer questions about what he knows about the Jeffrey Epstein controversy. This morning, House Republicans are moving to hold former President Bill Clinton in contempt of Congress after failing to appear for a closed-door deposition in the investigation into Jeffrey Epstein.
They continue to delay to the point where we had no idea whether they're going to show up today or not.
Bill and Hillary Clinton were both subpoenaed to appear before the committee this week, but have declined. The former president and Secretary of State arguing the request was legally invalid and that they have already made it clear they know nothing about Epstein's criminal activity, writing in a lengthy letter, quote, "Despite everything that needs to be done to help our country, you are on the cusp of bringing Congress to a halt to pursue a rarely used process literally designed to result in our imprisonment." Adding, "Every person has to decide when they have seen or had enough and are ready to fight for this country, its principles, and its people, no matter the consequences. For us, now is that time." Though the former president has long denied any wrongdoing, Republicans point out that Clinton has repeatedly appeared in photos and documents connected to Jeffrey Epstein, and he needs to give more information.
No one's accusing Bill Clinton of any wrongdoing. We just have questions.
Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna, who wrote the law forcing the Department of Justice to release the Epstein files, believes that anyone connected to Epstein should be willing to answer questions, including the Clintons.
Everyone involved should be providing an explanation, and I have conducted this in a way that doesn't single out Republicans or Democrats.
It's now 26 days past the deadline for when the DOJ said it would release the some 2 million files they have in their possession related to Epstein, and pressure is mounting.
Our goal here is justice for the survivors, and we need Pam Bondi to do the right thing and release all the files.
Now, as for President Trump, who initially fought the release of the Epstein files and has also been mentioned in the files, a surreal moment captured on video yesterday while he was touring that Ford factory in Detroit. TMZ obtained video of Trump flipping the middle finger at someone who could be heard calling him a pedophile protector. The White House confirming the incident, calling it, quote, "an appropriate and unambiguous response."
All right, Ryan, thanks so much. Explosive testimony is expected today in a Virginia courtroom in a double murder trial involving a man accused of killing his wife and another man. Yesterday, the couple's au pair testified about an alleged affair she was having with the husband. NBC News correspondent Ellison Barber has been following the case and joins us now with the details. A pretty crazy case, Ellison.
Yeah, I mean, a lot to keep track of here, Emily. So first she was the au pair for Brendan and Christine Banfield. Then she was the husband's mistress. And now she is testifying against him. In detailed testimony, Juliana Perez Magalhaes told the jury how her affair with Brendan Banfield spiraled into an elaborate murder plot.
The shocking au pair affair double murder trial, opening with dueling versions of what really happened.
Well, Juliana presents us with the narrative. It is the blood evidence that you can rely upon without a doubt.
The whole reason she was arrested was to flip her against my client.
Brendan Banfield is accused of killing his wife Christine and a man named Joseph Ryan, who prosecutors say Banfield catfished on a fetish website, luring him to the family's Northern Virginia home in 2023 in an attempt to frame him for Christine's murder.
Brendan would be the hero of the day. He would show up, kill the guy, kill his wife, pretending that it had been that guy. That was the plan.
Banfield, who has pled not guilty to aggravated murder, briefly getting emotional in court as a 911 call was played.
You said she's breathing normally, she's just not responding to you.
And prosecutors presented evidence.
Is that item something that could have caused the wounds to Christine Banfield's neck?
Yes. Juliana Perez Magalhaes, the family's au pair, and the prosecution's star witness, taking the stand. Magalhaes telling the court she and Brendan began having an affair in 2022, even teasing their relationship on social media, but keeping his identity hidden. Magalhaes testifying they were in love and that Brendan wanted to be with her, but divorcing his wife was not an option.
Did he tell you what he wanted to do?
Yes.
What did he say?
He mentioned his plan to get rid of her.
According to Magalhaes' testimony, the pair spent weeks talking to Joseph Ryan on the fetish site, pretending to be Christine and coaxing him to the home for a violent sexual encounter. Magalhaes admitting to shooting Ryan, but saying she did not stab Christine.
Did you stab Christine at all?
I did not. She was here, and Brendan was like stabbing her.
Magalhães did admit in court to shooting Joseph Ryan. She pled to that as well, but she said she did not stab Christine. She will return to the stand when court resumes later this morning. Remember, Emily, her testimony is actually part of an agreement with prosecutors. She agreed to testify against Brendan Banfield in exchange for a lesser charge related to manslaughter. The prosecution has said after she testifies, they plan to recommend she gets sentenced to time served and goes back to Brazil.
Wow, I think a lot of eyes will be watching this one. And already she took the stand, au pair on the stand. Right. Okay, Ellison, thanks for following this one. Now to a mysterious noise impacting a city in Connecticut. Some residents in West Haven have been complaining about a persistent humming sound that's been going on for months. It's keeping some people up all night and even causing anxiety in others. NBC News correspondent Sam Brock joins us with more on this. Sam, what's going on here? Good morning.
That is a great question, Emily. Good morning. Look, can you imagine just listening to this droning, humming sound nonstop for months on end? We had to go check this out in West Haven. We did, Emily, actually hear it for ourselves, and it is real. The sound is described as, quote, a low-frequency hum, not loud enough to trigger noise ordinances, but definitely frequent enough to annoy many residents who have urged city officials to investigate there, which they did for months. It now appears they have a strong hunch what's behind this perturbing pitch, and they're promising to pull the plug. For months, all the buzz in West Haven, Connecticut has been about an annoying buzz.
It's just repetitive now. You know, you just keep hearing it.
Residents in the city of 55,000 started complaining at least a year ago.
I just thought it was me going a little cuckoo.
But the calls crescendoed last spring, according to Mayor Dorinda Borer. Is this sort of like a mystery that has blanketed West Haven?
It's not in every neighborhood. It's in enough neighborhoods that we want to make sure we're addressing their quality of life.
The issue recently reaching a fever pitch.
We're just asking for transparency.
Our Hartford station, NBC Connecticut, interviewing Kimberly Nunes, who started a petition demanding details that now has more than 140 resident signatures.
It's definitely impacted our mental health. I have been put on medication for sleeping because it's very hard to sleep with this sound.
One man on a mission to snuff it out. John Carano, West Haven's Commissioner of Human Services, says he's personally tested almost 400 sites around the city.
It's one of those noises that once you hear it, you can't unhear it.
The city believes it's identified the source, a local plant.
I think different pieces of it have gotten addressed, and now we are here with this low hum noise.
West Haven just greenlit $15,000 to hire a third-party acoustics firm tasked with tracking down the sound's origin. Meantime, the situation reminiscent of several others in recent years, from a pulsating vibration in Bristol, Connecticut in 2024.
I'm just asking for help. This is torture.
To the sweet smell of maple syrup sweeping over New York City in 2013. To this, a haunting screech coming from the iconic Golden Gate Bridge. In all those cases, an explanation soon followed, and officials here say this will be no different.
I think we'll get some answers, and I think we'll be able to address it.
Okay, so how does this investigation work? I imagine there are a lot of people eager for answers, Sam.
Yes, they've been waiting clearly for a long time, maybe even years, Emily. They have this acoustic firm, right, that plans to set up 10 different microphones at 10 different locations and capture the sound. The wind, by the way, has to be less than 10 miles an hour, no rain. They're going to collect all the data, and then they'll compile a report. But then it's up to the city to come up with a solution with the company or the source producing the sound. And everybody there is just saying, amen to that.
Yeah.
Whenever you can get this done, please. Time is of the essence.
Okay, Sam, I'm expecting a follow-up. Thank you for staying on this
100%. Thanks, Emily.
All right, this morning, millions are waking up to winter alerts across the Great Lakes and parts of the Appalachians. Meteorologist Angie Lassman joins us now with your Morning News Now weather. Hey, Angie, good morning.
Hey, Em, good morning to you. We've got a couple of spots that, yes, have those winter alerts already active, and you can see why. Some rain stretching across the Tennessee Valley, across Kentucky as well. Lexington waking up wet this morning. And then we've got some of this kind of pesky snow kind of sliding across the Great Lakes. But notice we've got got the winter alerts downwind of plenty of the Great Lakes. And here's why. We've got this system that's going to slide a little farther to the east today. This is going to ramp up that lake effect snow, and actually it will become quite intense across parts of Indiana and Michigan. And then we'll see that kind of mix of rain and snow for most of the eastern half of the country. Or eastern third of the country, rather. By the time we get into tomorrow, much of that works out. We'll still see some of these lingering kind of snow showers across interior New England. But then notice what happens behind that. We've got this next system that's kind of getting its act together and arriving in parts of the upper Midwest. It brings the snowfall to folks across that region, so we'll see some additional snow for folks there. And you can see, once again, that it's downwind of the lakes that we're really seeing those highest totals. So 6 to 8 inches downwind of Erie and Ontario. You can see in portions of western Michigan, we could maybe see 1.5 feet of snow here by the time we get through at least Thursday. So some additional snow expected across this region. Some of those totals, places like South Bend, Indiana, up to 14 inches possible. If you live in Cleveland, you could maybe pick up close to 1/2 foot. Watertown up to 10 inches as we get through the end of our work week. Meanwhile, looking ahead to this weekend, we've got a big picture look of your Friday. Most of us are going to be quite quiet. We'll see a whole lot of sunshine across the country. It's just part of the Great Lakes that are going to be snowy and windy. And then we look into Saturday, and that pattern continues, Emily. Really kind of nice conditions even through Sunday. Most of us are going to see abundant sunshine and some mild temperatures in some spots too, especially across the Rockies.
Abundant sunshine. I like the sound of that. I see you're channeling that sunshine here as always.
Listen, it's still winter. I know our temperatures have been deceiving us across the east, but I needed a little brightness in my life.
We appreciate it, Auntie, bringing that brightness to us. Thanks so much.
You got it.
Much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now, including a major medical milestone this morning. Cancer survival rates are steadily improving. But what's behind the trend? We'll dig into a promising new report. But first, after the break, another story of perseverance and survival. Princess Kate slowly stepping back into the public eye 1 year after announcing her cancer was in remission. A royal update next. We're back now with the latest in Princess Kate's royal recovery. It's been 1 year since she announced she was in remission from cancer. She's been easing back into public duties and just turned 44 last week. NBC international correspondent Molly Hunter is in London with a look at what this past year has meant for the princess and her family. Hey, Molly, what a milestone.
What a milestone. All the royal updates for you, Emily. Good morning from a very sunny Buckingham Palace. But this is a big day for the Princess of Wales, and it's continued good news about her recovery. But 2026 is going to be a very busy one for everyone's favorite royal. Take a look.
Exactly 1 year ago this morning, the Princess of Wales marking a major milestone at the Royal Marsden Hospital in London. A hospital she knew very well during her cancer treatment, but last year took the visit as an opportunity to announce her remission.
I think she handled it very gracefully.
And her new normal has been a welcome change for the royal family. Last week, visiting another hospital, this time a surprise appearance alongside husband Prince William, reflecting on her own recovery journey.
I do love the more holistic approach to a patient's recovery. It makes such a big difference.
And celebrating her birthday the following day, turning 44, posting beautiful nature drone video featuring shots of her walking in the woods and by a riverbank.
Come to peace with our tears and discover what it means to be alive.
The most popular member of the royal family has a busy year ahead, perhaps even a visit to her many fans across the pond.
I think we'll definitely see more of Catherine this year, 2026. We know that they are planning foreign trips. We don't know the details yet, but possibly one to North America, possibly to Canada.
Tomorrow, her first solo event of the year, and a little lighthearted rivalry with husband Prince William, who is patron of the Welsh rugby team. She will be hosting the World Cup winning England women's rugby team at Windsor Castle. It's been 12 months of ramping up her public schedule following her remission. From high-profile state visits to glamorous black tie outings, to more personal appearances, to high-stakes matches with her family. Headed into the new year, Kate appears grounded, ready for a busy royal schedule, while also staying focused on her young family.
And Emily, we'll see Kate tomorrow at Windsor Castle, as I mentioned in the piece, but a fun one to look forward to next week, next Tuesday. She and William both, who are both pretty sporty in their own right, will try their hand at curling with the Olympic team here, so that should be a fun one to watch. Emily?
All right, Molly, from the beautiful Buckingham Palace, thanks so much.
All right, from one remission milestone to real progress here at home in the fight against cancer. A new report by the American Cancer Society shows 7 in 10 people now survive 5 or more years after their cancer diagnosis.
That's a huge improvement from the 1970s, when only half of people diagnosed with cancer lived for at least 5 years. Experts say this improved survival rate is largely because of better treatment options.
For more on this, let's bring in Dr. William Dayhut. He is the Chief Scientific Officer at the American Cancer Society. Doctor, good to have you with us to talk about what is certainly progress, this new survival rate. It's actually based on cancer diagnoses from 2015 to 2021. Just walk us through how treatment options have improved so much for cancer patients in that time.
Yeah, it's really a dramatic difference. You know, when I was a fellow, every lung cancer patient received chemotherapy. And now what we do is we take a piece of the tumor and then we go ahead and sequence it. And we found, for example, that lung cancer is actually, multiple different cancers. And for many of those cancers, there's actually a very targeted therapy, oral therapy often, which can actually control the disease for years and years. And then going back between the laboratory and the clinic, when resistance is developed, we found 2nd and 3rd line treatment. So targeted therapies target against the immune system, and also targeted therapies, attached to toxins and radiation have really changed the way we treat cancer patients.
And there's a lot in this report. It looks at different groups of people, different types of cancer. What are some of the other highlights?
Yeah, so I think the really exciting news, as you mentioned early on, is really the doubling of the people alive at 5 years with metastatic cancer. I mean, that's really an astronomical increase. We do see some persistent disparities, though. There are certain populations, particularly our Native American and Alaska Natives, who actually have a survival, 2 times worse than white Americans. And really, Alaska Natives actually have the highest colorectal cancer rate in the world, and often develop colorectal cancer in their 40s. So there are certain populations you really need to focus on.
Yeah, and there are also just some diagnoses that are rising, even though we've seen these improved survival rates, like colorectal cancer in people under 50, breast cancer among women. What needs to be done to help just lower the risk of cancer for Americans?
So we do know overall there are still about 40 to 50% of cancers are actually preventable by changes in lifestyle. Tobacco is still far and away the leading cause of cancer. And that's why lung cancer is the highest mortality. It's more than 2 times greater than pancreas and colorectal cancer. But exercise is actually really important. Exercise is one of those things quantifiable. So really get up and move around, diet, keeping a healthy weight, minimizing alcohol, and then getting vaccines that prevent cancer, I think are all important things too.
Yeah, we're hearing a lot about those staples throughout this morning. As of now, Congress does not have plans to extend insurance subsidies for the Affordable Care Act. What kind of impact could that have to cancer patients?
Well, we know it's really important for cancer patients to have access to appropriate coverage. And if they can't actually afford their care, they're going to make decisions to delay their screening or actually not be able to receive life-saving therapies. We know really the best way to eliminate, cancer disparities in this country is really to provide equal access. So, we're committed, along with our advocacy on the ACS Cancer Action Network, to ensure that Congress really works that all constituents have access to meaningful, impactful insurance coverage.
Such an important conversation. Dr. William Dayhut, we're glad you could join us this morning to talk about this. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on today.
All right, coming up, reignited worries over America's fight against surging measles cases this morning.
The southern state that's clocked more than 100 cases in the past few days, and what health officials want you to know about how quickly the disease could spread. That's next on Morning News Now.
We're back now with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with the Supreme Court hearing about restrictions on transgender athletes.
White House correspondent Monica Alba joins us now with more. Hey, Monica.
Hey guys, good morning. That's right. We start with the Supreme Court, which appeared likely on Tuesday to uphold state laws that ban transgender athletes from taking part in girls' and women's sports, both at the school and college level. The court heard oral arguments in 2 cases involving transgender students who challenged state bans in West Virginia and Idaho, respectively, and both had won lower court injunctions that had allowed them to keep playing. But there was wide agreement on the bench that, at least in these these particular cases, the scientific consensus to what extent transgender girls and women have a competitive advantage is just not clear. Next, we have the president, who last week called out a group of federal prosecutors at the White House. That's according to the Wall Street Journal, who reports that he called these U.S. attorneys weak and complained that they weren't moving fast enough to prosecute certain targets, according to people familiar with the exchange. This happened at what was supposed to be a ceremonial photo shoot with Attorney General Pam Bondi in attendance, and notably this came a day before federal prosecutors sent grand jury subpoenas to the Federal Reserve on Friday. And finally, we have news that former special counsel Jack Smith is set to testify publicly before the House Judiciary Committee next week on January 22nd. The public hearing follows 8 hours of closed-door deposition time with the committee last month that centered on his investigations into former President Trump at the time. And Smith had asked for that to be public, but Republicans rejected that request. He, of course, led those 2 probes into Mr. Trump, resulting in 2 indictments. One was related to classified documents, and another was in connection with his efforts to overturn the 2020 election. The president, for his part, has denied any wrongdoing related to those cases, both of which were dismissed. And that is what is making headlines in politics and in Washington, D.C. this morning. Joe and Emily.
All right, Monica, thanks so much for that. There's a health alert in South Carolina where an outbreak of measles is spreading.
Yeah, health officials are reporting more than 100 new cases since Friday and warning people that the incubation period for this disease can be anywhere from 7 to 21 days. NBC News correspondent Ann Thompson is here to walk us through what's going on here. Ann, good morning.
It really is remarkable what's going on in South Carolina. Measles is one of the most contagious diseases that exists. It's spread by droplets, and the CDC says it can last in the air for up to 2 hours after an infected person leaves the area. It's why South Carolina health officials are urging residents to take precautions. This morning, a growing public health alert in South Carolina as measles cases surge. 124 new cases reported since Friday, the statewide total now topping 400. According to the South Carolina Department of Public Health, the outbreak is mostly spreading in the northwest part of the state. And while some cases can be traced back to travel or close contact exposure, others have no identifiable source back to infection.
I think the thing that will help stop the spread is obviously 2 things. 1, vaccine, and then 2, just information about community spread, because this is such a smart virus. It is incredibly contagious.
And it's not just South Carolina. Georgia reporting its first confirmed measles case, an unvaccinated baby who picked up the virus traveling internationally, the child too young to receive the vaccine. In Oregon, officials racing to find those impacted by 2 newly confirmed measles cases, the state's first of the year.
One case of measles can infect up to 12 to 18 different people who are susceptible, meaning not vaccinated or don't have a previous history of measles.
And now a warning for travelers in one of the nation's largest cities. The Philadelphia Public Health Department reporting a possible measles exposure last week at the airport, 30th Street train station, and an Amtrak train. Officials saying it was a preschool-age child who also traveled through Maryland and Washington, D.C. before being taken to a hospital in Northern Virginia. While the Philadelphia Health Commission says they believe there is no threat to the general public, it is still concerning for commuters.
It scares me to death because I'm in Philly because I have cancer and I'm here getting treatment.
Yeah, it's particularly dangerous for those who are immunocompromised, like people undergoing cancer treatment. Now, you may be wondering as you read this, what about herd immunity? Well, the CDC says you need 95% of people vaccinated to reach that herd immunity. In South Carolina, according to the latest numbers we could find from the CDC, that state had a vaccination rate for measles of 91.2% in 2024 and 25. So even just falling under that, that can really start to crumble the wall of immunity that is built up by vaccination.
And I'm sure a number of states have numbers around there or even lower.
Even lower.
Yeah. Thanks, Ann. Appreciate it. Coming up. All right, let's move to financial headlines now this morning, including a major recall of cheese.
NBC News business and economy reporter Emily Lorish has your Money Minute. Hey, Em.
Hey guys, good morning. That's right. One of the largest importers of specialty cheese from Italy has issued a recall. Several cheese products from the Ambriola company have tested positive for Listeria, including Locatelli and Boar's Head's Pecorino Romano. The FDA has designated the recall as Class 1, meaning exposure can cause serious health consequences. So far, though, luckily no illnesses have been reported. And the company that owns the iconic luxury retailer Saks Fifth Avenue has filed for bankruptcy. Saks Global has struggled with debt it took on from its acquisition of Neiman Marcus, along with falling store sales and rising online competition. The company secured a $1.75 billion financing package and appointed a former Neiman Marcus CEO as its new leader. For now, though, Saks says stores will remain open. And Nike is stepping onto the pickleball court. The athletic wear giant has signed an 18-year-old Anna Lee Waters. She's the world's top-ranked pickleball player. The deal makes her the brand's first ever pickleball athlete as the sport continues its explosive growth nationwide. Waters will debut the partnership this week at the Carvana Masters in California. And Joe and Emily, I have to admit, I was one of the first people who played pickleball many, many years ago before it got so explosive here in the U.S. My parents had moved to Florida, and they were playing before I knew what even pickleball was, and I loved the game.
There you go. Nike, take
Seriously.
note. All right.
I love it.
Thanks, Emily. Appreciate it. All right. We are just a few weeks out from Super Bowl 60 here on NBC. And while 8 teams are still in the hunt for a championship, there are now 9 NFL teams in the market for a new head coach.
Just yesterday, the Pittsburgh Steelers became the latest team to open up a coaching job after Mike Tomlin stepped down from his role. His legendary tenure ends after nearly 2 decades at the helm. So even before we crown this year's NFL champion, we're diving into how the coaching landscape could look completely different next year and what this coaching carousel means for the league.
We're joined now by the host of Front Office Sports Today, Baker Machado. Baker, good to have you with us. So this is pretty crazy. You already have 9 openings right now. Is there one that surprised you most?
Guys, that's 25% of the entire league looking for a head coach right now. This literally is the craziest head coaching cycle we've ever seen. Those are the teams right now looking for a head coach. And as you mentioned yesterday, the Pittsburgh Steelers announcing that Mike Tomlin, after 19 years, will no longer be there. Guys, he joined the Steelers in 2007 before the first iPhone even came out, which is crazy. He, by the way, it sounds like he's going to take a year off, maybe get back into coaching. But really the big surprise, the Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens, 2 teams who had head coaches for at least 18 years. The difference in this one is John Harbaugh, who used to coach the Ravens, does plan to coach again next season. But all the importance of that last game a week ago between these 2 teams on that missed field goal could have changed both of these teams' trajectory as a result of that.
Okay, so we know who's out. Who could be in? Who do you think is going to be the most sought after?
So John Harbaugh clearly is the most sought-after candidate right now. According to multiple reports, the New York Giants, the Atlanta Falcons, and interestingly this morning, The Athletic reported the Tennessee Titans could be a landing spot for John Harbaugh, but he is going to be really expensive, so it's going to be interesting to see which team opens up the pocketbook for him. Meanwhile, the other interesting one is Kevin Stefanski. Whatever job John Harbaugh does not get, the former Cleveland Browns head coach likely would get that, so that could be the Giants or the Falcons as well. And then one name to keep an eye out on is the offensive coordinator of the Seattle Seahawks. His name is Clint Kubiak. He has the most interviews right now out of all of the candidates right now at 6, so watch out for him potentially in Arizona or even in Tennessee as well.
So you have teams that made the playoffs that just in the end decided to get rid of their coaches, and then you have plenty of teams that didn't make the playoffs, and that's when you fire their coach. I mean, who really needs like a good skipper right now?
You know, right now it looks like the Arizona Cardinals and really the Miami Dolphins, interestingly, might need the biggest head coaching hires out there. Interestingly, Chris Shula, the defensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams, he's related to the famous Shula dynasty from the Miami Dolphins, could be basically one of those people there. And then you'd have to say the Las Vegas Raiders. All eyes are going to be on Tom Brady, the minority owner there. He has a lot of input on who is going to be the head coach there, and they have the #1 pick in the NFL draft, likely going to select the amazing Heisman Trophy winning quarterback from Indiana, Fernando Mendoza. So a lot of pressure on Brady there to get that hire right as well.
What do you think the first job to be filled will be?
Oh, that's going to be a tough one. I would say it would probably be the Arizona Cardinals or even the Tennessee Titans. And the big thing will be there, does John Harbaugh get with any of those ones as well? And that sort of sets the domino effect for everybody else.
We know the 8 teams want John Harbaugh.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Baker.
A lot of eyes and fans going to be following that one. All right.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.